Okay, welcome to the DJI X5R workflow number 2. This part includes the DJI Cinelight software that they are apparently forcing you to use to offload your clips from the DNG camera native RAW files into usable QuickTime ProRes files. And we're going to go through a real quick tutorial on how to get those off your drives and into your editor. And later on we'll talk about more advanced workflows for color and everything else. So right now, if you place a drive from the X5R into the computer, you'll see your files listed off here to the left hand side. You can see your individual DNG image sequences down here at the bottom. What's interesting is here you can do a baseline color, and you can choose to either have this kind of what I would call a half-baked file, which means you're giving it a baseline color and you're expecting to go back in to like DaVinci Resolve to do a master color later. So right now we've got a very simple workflow that we can do right from the movie clip index. We can right-click, go to Export, and open a window and select to export directly from here, and go to a ProRes 422, ProRes LT proxy, 444XQ if we're going to go to like a master color file. But right now, if we just want to edit with a nice high quality 1080p file, we're going to choose QuickTime ProRes HQ. Okay. Now, this little window, you can actually use the full 4K image size. If you choose half size preview, it will actually make a 1920 by 1080 high def quote unquote preview file for editing, so that you can relink back to your master file later. Okay. Since that's probably what we're going to do, I just select half size preview. The original frame rate of this clip is 24. I can choose variable frame rates. This may cause motion issues, so what you want to do is whatever the frame rate that you set the camera to, you want to select that here to keep everything the same. I know this clip is 24 frame, and it's probably 2398, but I believe it is actually a straight 24 for the demo purposes. So I'm just going to go ahead. I know that's what it is. I'm going to leave it there. Now here, apply calibrations. Everything that you did right over here is not going to be affected by the footage unless you click this box. Okay, and I'm going to show you that right now. I'm going to do okay, let's see here. I've already selected a folder that I want to put my clips into, and I clicked apply calibrations. I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing, and I'm going to uncheck that box, and I'll show you the difference in the output file as soon as this renders out here. Okay, and there is our file. So now I'm going to do the exact same step. I'm going to choose QuickTime ProRes HQ, half size file, 24 frames. I am not going to check apply calibrations. I'm only doing this for display purposes. You would do one or the other. If you wanted to do a baseline look or color, you know, change your white balance or do a slight exposure correction just for editing purposes, you can do that right here and save those changes to your edit files. So even if I had 100 clips in here, I could select them all. You know, if I had 100 clips, I could just select all, right click, export, same thing. It'll do them all in a batch. As soon as I am done, I can go right into Final Cut. I'm going to get rid of that. That's from an earlier test that I did. Now I'm going to open it up, and there's the clip that was not manipulated, and this other one is the clip that was manipulated. So I'm going to go ahead and select both of those and import them. Okay, I'm going to make a new event here. There we go. So here you can see the difference in the two files. This one I colored to give it a kind of Ansel Adams stark contrast, a little soft black and white, and that's the camera original without any correction. Okay, so that's, you know, if I want to have an emotional connection to my footage in a way that it's going to be colored, I can kind of quickly give it a little profile so that when I'm editing, I can kind of get a feel for what I want the footage to look like. And so if I brought this down here, it's just a small clip here. There we go. And I'm just going to make some cuts, and I'll show you something that's pretty cool here. All right, so here's my file. If I click on it and go up to my info tab, I can see that it's ProRes HQ, 24 frames. It's 1920 by 1080, so it's half the size. Okay. Now once I go and I've done all my edits, I can go back and do the same steps in DaVinci Resolve from the first workflow that I showed, and that was creating an XML basically in Final Cut. If I were to go up here and export an XML, and we'll call this revision 3, and then I've already pointed Resolve to my camera native files in my file folder, and I can just import XML and select my revision 3, and it is 1920 by 1080. If I want to relink to my master files and I know it's 4K, I can come down here and do 3840 by 2160, say OK, and there they are. Now one thing you'll notice, there's that color, that black and white color that I did is not here. That's because it took my cut list and applied it to the master file, which has no color correction done to it. So it's only taking my edits and applying it to my master footage, and now I can go in with my raw 4K footage and give it my extreme makeover, if you want to call it that. You can go in and do your master color pass, and then give it a round trip delivery back to Final Cut via another XML. And so basically what that does is it takes all of your master files with its master color correction, and then you would import it back into Final Cut in a separate project, and all of these clips would relink with the master files, and they could even be in the full res 4K format. So I mean, it's a real quick round trip discussion about how the X5R workflow would work. But just to recap, the nitty-gritty, down and dirty kind of workflow to get the files off the card and organized is kind of as follows. So you would basically open up Cinelight, you would plug in your hard drive, you'll see your clips listed here. I'm going to go ahead and reset this. Okay, all of your clips are going to be listed right here to the left hand side. You can just do an Open Apple A, select all. You don't even have to give it any color if you don't want to, and you can right click, export. Make sure you change this to the file of your choosing. You can do ProRes 422 HQ is what I suggest. You can do a 444 and skip the round trip color to Resolve and try to color it all in Final Cut, and we could talk about that kind of workflow. But right now we're just going to make a nice QuickTime 422. We can even leave them the original size if we want to. If we don't want to do a round trip to Resolve and we just want to do minor color corrections in Final Cut, we'll just leave it the original size. We are not applying any calibration, any pre-cal, and we can select our destination, so I can go wherever I want and make a new folder. For some reason here it doesn't allow me to rename the folder if I make it in this window, so you're going to want to make your folders ahead of time, because it just allows that untitled folder. Hooray. and then I go ahead and hit OK, and it's going to go through and render this out. And if you, again, if you had 400 clips in here, it would just stack them all up and start rendering. And when they're all done, you'll be able to go right into Final Cut and go into your media browser, or drag them directly from the Finder into the media browser window. And this is the, okay, CineVault is where I put it. And X5R test. And there's my untitled folder. And looks like the first one is done importing. Or maybe not, it's probably still working in the background. But that's where it would be. And I would just pop it into my timeline, just like this, and start cutting. So that's a basic overview of using the DJI X5R camera hard drive with the Cinelight import software. So again, workflows are infinitely changing. There's probably 10 different ways to do a certain thing. The best thing to do is to find out what works best for you. And going forward, we can talk more about structure and file organization. I'll do a small video on file folders and structure and things like that. We can talk more about that. But just wanted to give you this general overview, and have fun. We'll talk soon.